Yes, here I am again, talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This has been largely a train wreck since Avengers Endgame. I think that the quality of these films and TV shows has really deteriorated, and I think you can't underestimate the importance of something I talk about all the freaking time: characters and most importantly, writing. Getting a good script, understanding your characters, and giving us a story that's worth telling. Something that has been consistent in the MCU up until this point is James Gunn. I I loved the first Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie has aged extremely well. It's incredible. The sequel was really good. I don't think it was as good as the first film. And now we're getting the final of this trilogy. And my expectations for this were fairly muted, mostly because the quality of all these recent MCU films has been overall hot garbage. This movie is phenomenal, and I love it. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. The MCU overall has been great. I think it's been a net positive. I've really loved overall what they have done. The recent films have sucked. It's not very often within the MCU that I walk away from one of these movies and I'm thinking about it a lot afterwards. Most of them have been traditional summer blockbuster fare. I don't have, even after this movie, I don't really have high expectations because I sat in the theater when I saw this and watched the trailer for The Marvels. That movie looks unwatchably bad. Every single second of that trailer, I was like, this movie looks like it's nearly unwatchable and has no actual cohesive story. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and they're going to blow me out of the theater with this incredible motion picture masterpiece, but I have my doubts. All of that said, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is tremendous. It has a really good sense of humor. It's not as funny as the first film, but it gets the most important thing right, which is the story. The question of Rocket Raccoon's background has always been something that hasn't really been touched on, right? We know that Rocket comes from a really screwed up background. We don't know exactly what that looks like, but we know he's a bit of a tortured soul. This movie dives headfirst into all of that and is just a complete home run. I don't want to spoil what happens with his backstory, but let's just say it's the beating heart of this movie. And Gunn, more than maybe any other director in the MCU or set of directors, understands that giving your story an emotional core really takes it to the next level. And this movie is fantastic. I really loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I don't love the soundtrack as much as the other films, but it's again still really focused on the music. It gets all of that stuff mostly right. So, and I do want to shout out some of the performances here because they're incredible. And somebody I really want to talk about for a few minutes is the villain. This is, again, something that Marvel has gotten sometimes right and sometimes very wrong. Chukwudu Iwuji, he is the Nigerian British actor who plays the High Evolutionary, and he's awesome. This is a tremendous Marvel villain. And I didn't know anything about him going into this, and I think that's the best. He's not as nuanced as of a character as some of the other villains like Thanos. This isn't a character that wants your sympathy, or the story demands your sympathy, like Killmonger or like Thanos, or to a certain extent the Winter Soldier in the titular Captain America movie. This is a villain that is disgusting and hideous and nasty and mean, and I think it's great. I think this is the villain that they really need at this time. It's so disappointing that they have managed to fumble the situation with Kang, because Jonathan Majors is clearly what appears to be a garbage human who's doing all these terrible things to women and the people around him. And it's a bummer that they focus so much on that character, because they have in this a truly incredible villain that I really do love, and you just love to hate. And the way he's handled from top to bottom in this is great. So James Gunn nails the characters. The script is fantastic. Chris Pratt is great. Zoe Saldana is great. It's got all the right cameos. Everything here is just great. I really do adore this movie. Well, I don't think it's the funniest Guardians movie. I think looking back, it might be the best because it's just so good. It's just so good and really out of left field for me. I didn't know what to expect, especially because, again, everything post Endgame has been largely mediocre. I thought Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was a completely wasted opportunity. I think the TV shows have largely fallen flat. I think they've pushed way too hard on diversity for diversity's sake instead of actually crafting characters around or crafting stories around interesting characters. But this is everything. This is everything right that you should. They got everything right here. And Gunn and the filmmaking team really deserves a lot of credit. And I'm interested to see what James Gunn does with Superman in the DC universe because he's diving headfirst into that with a new actor to play that part. But I'll always have hope because he's somebody that really gets the important things that make a movie function well, and I love him for it. This is a great movie. I can't believe how good of a job they did with this, and I'm disappointed because this is the end of the Guardians trilogy as we know it. But yeah, they couldn't have wrapped it up any better for me. So I had to pee like half of the movie, and the fact that I was able to power through that and get everything I needed to out of this was great. So my bladder did not appreciate this at the time, but looking back on it, this is really a great film. So if you like this review, if you found it helpful, I would hope you consider subscribing. You'd also like and share it. That tells the powers that be it's worth promoting. And hit me up in the comments. Let me know, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a hit or a miss for you? And I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.